Hey, I'm Michael Cleveland, pastor at the River of Life Church in Abilene, Texas. You're about to watch a message from one of our weekend services. We hope that as you watch this message, that first you're challenged to take whatever the next step is in your relationship with Jesus Christ. We also hope that you're encouraged. You know, if you enjoy this message today, we would invite you to come and worship with us on a Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. If you'd like to support the mission of this church financially, you can do so by going to our website, www.theriverabilene.com, and clicking on the Giving tab. Enjoy this message. Have a great day.
But you gotta put in work. But you gotta put in work. Wake up tomorrow.
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us and for being here with us this morning. Hey, if you have a bulletin, go ahead and grab that, pull that out. You're going to want that. All of my notes and the scriptures that we're going to have today, well, you'll find them right inside there. There's also a section for you to take some notes of your own if you'd like. And we are in week 2 of a series called Work. Last week in week 1, we talked about how that God has created all of us to work. And that I challenge you to choose the hard right, the difficult thing that's the thing that you know you're supposed to do, over the easy wrong. You know, God has called every single one of us to build His house, was where we finished it. And we look at the book of Haggai, that's where we're finding our story from that we're in right now. And it's a small book toward the end of the Old Testament. It's only 2 chapters long, but in those 2 chapters, there's much that we can learn. You know, last week in the story, we started out talking about how there was Solomon's temple. And it was this big, beautiful place. It was an incredible temple that people were able to come and worship in. But then King Nebuchadnezzar, he rolls into town with his armies, and they destroy Judah, and they destroy Solomon's temple. And they take the Jewish people into captivity. And about 50 years later, he allows a group of people to return home to begin to rebuild the house. We see that once they get there, though, they meet some opposition. As soon as they get started, they meet some opposition and they decide to quit. And so for 14 years, they didn't do anything. They didn't build the house. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And then God calls the prophet Haggai to come and speak to them. And He tells them it's time to get to work. And so when we left them last week, we left them at the end of Haggai chapter 1, verse 14, where it says, "They came and began to work on the house of the Lord Almighty, their God." And it put like a nice bow on the message, you know? Like it felt like a great place to end. It felt like a great ending to the story. But you see, the problem is that was just the end of chapter 1 of Haggai. And as I just told you, there's 2 chapters in the book. Well, the year was 1999. And there was a song that came out. And I used to listen to it, especially on mornings when I'd have to be up driving to work at McDonald's at 4 a.m. to make eggs for Egg McMuffins. And the words of this song, they were penned by the great philosophers known as Blink-182. And I would like to read the second verse of this song to you. They wrote, "Late night, come home. Work sucks. I know. Blink-182, all the small things." You know, we've all been there, right? We can all identify with that lyric at some point in time where we've had a job that we just haven't enjoyed. There's been something that we just didn't like about it. You know, last week I shared with you some of the jobs that I've had, and as I just said, you know, at that point in time, I was getting up and going to work at McDonald's at 4 a.m. every day so that I could make eggs for Egg McMuffins. That was not a fun job. That fit the lyric of this song. You know, I shared with you that I was a copy boy in the basement of an attorney's office. That job was horrible. Just standing there for 9 hours a day, putting a paper on the Xerox machine and hitting print. That job fit that song lyric. You know, but sometimes we can even be in a career or a field that we love, but because of somebody that we work with or because of who our boss is, it may make us kind of feel that way about that job. I remember a job that I had one time. I was a worship leader at a church, and it was my very first week starting out at this church. And when I go in, the pastor, he's kind of picking on me and wanting me to go play basketball with him because he enjoyed playing basketball, and I enjoyed playing basketball. But the problem is I was just a few months removed from having my shoulder completely reconstructed. And so it had been stuck in place for like months, and I had just got out of this like hard cast, had just got started on rehab, and he wants me to come play in this basketball game. And so I said, no, but there's this thing, I'm really competitive. And he kept making fun of me and kept pushing me to the point where I was like, all right, fine, I'm going to show up to this basketball game. Well, I show up to the basketball game, and nobody's there. It's just me. So I shoot for a minute by myself, and then my boss, the senior pastor, comes in. He goes, oh, yeah, sorry, it's just going to be you and me. Let's play one-on-one. Like, okay, this feels like a setup, but all right, let's play. And so he's like, I'll give you ball first. So I check up, and as soon as I check up, he punches me right in the shoulder. The one that I just had completely rebuilt, and he knew this. And so I'm like, ow, that hurt. But I'm not going to just quit. So we keep playing this game, and every possession, he's hitting me in the shoulder over and over again to the point that like it hurt so bad, I started throwing up. But I would not quit. And so we had to finish the game. But that was like my first experience with this guy, very first week. There was another time where there was a group of us that we went out of town to this conference. And I'm driving, we're in my truck, and he's in the passenger seat, and there's some other guys in the back seat, and we're all just, it's the morning, and we're kind of making fun of each other, just being dudes. And one of the guys in the back seat made fun of this guy in the front seat, and we're all just kind of laughing, and he reaches down into his belt clip and pulls out a gun and points it at the guy in the back seat, and then sits it on the console like with it pointed at him, and the car got really quiet, really, really fast. We realized that this might be a hostile work environment. And, so it was one of those situations where you really love the job, you really love what you're doing, but the people that you're working with sometimes can make it difficult, right? We've all probably heard the saying that if you find a job you love, or you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? We've heard that. If I'm honest with you, I think that's like a majority truthful statement. Because there's still some days that you just don't want to get out of bed and go to work, right? Like there's some days or some people that you just don't want to deal with. And so for the most part, that's a true statement. But sometimes the days just aren't fun. And no matter if it's a job that you love or what you're supposed to do, or even if it's something that you feel like you've been called by God to do, some days it just stinks to get up and go to work. When we pick up with the Jewish people in Haggai chapter 2, we see that they've been working on the temple for 1 month. So we left them last week. They went to work. They're going to build the temple. Well, at this point, they've been working on it for 1 month. And they were real excited. And then they worked for a month. And they found out that working is hard. It's work. It's no fun. And in the middle of them coming to get a little bit discouraged, there's this religious festival, this party that goes on. And so a whole bunch of people come down to the temple site where they're working. And I don't know what they expected it to look like a month into the project, but apparently they were disappointed. And they started kind of making fun of the people that were working on it. Why haven't you got more done? And so the people that were working got a little bit discouraged. I don't know where they expected to be because they've only been working on it for a month. So you imagine this big, huge thing. They have a foundation and they have some framing, maybe a couple walls up, but they're not very far along in the process. And so 1 month in, they just decide, you know what, it's not worth it anymore. We quit. We're going to take our ball and we're going to go home. After 1 month. They started out with a ton of enthusiasm. We're going to do this for God. It's going to be great. We're going to build this temple. It's going to be better than the old one. But after 1 month, they stall out. We see this in life, right? Think about it in January. If you ever go to a gym, they're packed, right? In January, you got to wait like an hour just to get on a certain machine that you want. But if you wait like 30 days and go in February, you have your pick of any machine you want. Because people get really excited and they try to start it and then they stall out. Or it's always, interesting when people are like, oh, I'm going to get out of debt. I'm going to work so hard. I'm going to get out of debt. We're excited. And then you see them a few days later and like, oh, man, I forgot that Christmas was in December again this year and we just blew the budget. Or when somebody says, I'm going to tackle this diet. I'm going to be hardcore about this diet. I'm on it. I'm going to diet. I'm going to diet. I'm going to diet. I'm going to do this. And then you see them a few days later and you're like, how's that diet going? And they're like, well, the thing about it is I went to Walmart and double stuffed Oreos were half price. And I mean, come on, you got to feel me on those double-stuffed Oreos. Yeah, I remember when I was in college, I got invited to participate in an activity that I'd never been a part of before. It was to play in an ultimate Frisbee league. I was like, all right, I had some guys explain to me how this would work, and basically my job, I was pretty quick and I had good hands, so my job was going to be to run as fast as I could down the field. Somebody's going to lob this Frisbee up, and my job was just to go and get it. I was like, okay, I can do that. Well, then they told me, by the way, it's full contact ultimate Frisbee. Okay, so we're going to push and shove a little bit. That's cool. And so we had a couple practices, and we kind of pushed and shoved a little bit, but I was killing it at this. Like, I was really good. I could run down the field, jump, catch a Frisbee, and wait, and then somebody that was a good thrower would come by, and I'd just hand it to him, and then I'd take off again. Then we had our first game. Very first play, very first game. I take off running. Guy launches a Frisbee down the field. I run, I jump, I catch it. I'm feeling pretty good about myself at this point. Until I found out very quickly that we weren't practicing at like full hit capacity. And out of nowhere, this guy launches himself. He doesn't just hit me, he launches himself through the air and tackles me midair and drives me into the ground, breaking my ribs. Very first play of the game. My ultimate Frisbee career is now over. My great enthusiasm that I had for trying this out, my enthusiasm that I had even in practice and lining up, and even in the midst of making my first catch, was now gone because I had experienced a little bit of a setback called broken ribs and not being able to breathe. And so because of that, I felt discouraged and I gave up. I think that happens with us quite a bit, doesn't it? There's something that we get excited about, something that we start really strong in, and then we experience some sort of setback. And once we do, then discouragement sets in. And that's what happened to the people in Haggai chapter 2. And so when Haggai sees this, the prophet Haggai sees this, he comes on the scene and he speaks to them in Haggai chapter 2, verse 3, and he asks this question. He asks, who of you is left who saw this house in its former glory? How does it look to you now? Does it not seem to you like nothing? I believe there are two major causes of discouragement. And I think if we dig into them, the two major causes of discouragement that we'll see, the first one is comparisons, and the second one is lack of progress. We compare ourselves to people all the time. But you know what the problem is when we tend to compare ourselves to people is that we tend to compare our start with someone else's finish. The Jews were in captivity for about 50 years. And so many of them were the right age, that they were old enough before they went in, but still young enough when they got out, that they remember what Solomon's temple looked like. Even Haggai himself, when they got out, was thought to be about 70 years old. So he would have been about a teenager before they went in. So he would have seen Solomon's temple. He would have seen how incredible it was, how just amazing it was, the gold, the diamonds, the silver, the jewels that were everywhere, just how incredible it was. He would have seen this. He would have remembered, and so many others saw it, and so many others remembered. And so the problem was that the Jews at this point in time began to compare their 1 month of work. They began to compare their start to the finish that they remembered. There's no way that 1 month of work is going to compare in any way to the great finish that Solomon had. But we do this all the time. We look at other people and we say, man, they have a good job. They have a nice car. They have a killer house. And I hate my job. My car barely runs and my house isn't big enough for the people that we have in our family right now. We look at them and we say, man, their kids are perfectly dressed. They have home-baked goods in their lunch every day for school. And their kids are getting college credit and they're only in the 5th grade. We look at us and we're like, man, my kids are barely dressed. I think they had on pants when they went to school this morning. I know I forgot to give them lunch money, and I'm pretty sure they're failing PE class. We look at others and we say they're more successful. They have more likes than us on Instagram. Oh, they're traveling again. Hey, how come I wasn't invited to this event that they're posting pictures of? When we compare ourselves with others, all we're going to find is discouragement. Because what people are putting out there, the stories that people tell, the pictures that people post, that's not real life. It's a blown up, photoshopped version of their life. And when we compare this image, when we compare this mirage of what they're posting or what they're putting out there to our start or to our real life, it's not going to compare. All it's going to do is bring discouragement. I believe we're also discouraged when we look at our lack of progress. You see, we tend to become frustrated when we don't quickly see the results that we want. The Jewish people, they started building. And I don't know what they expected to get done in 1 month, but apparently it wasn't going as they expected. And they weren't seeing the results as quickly as they wanted to see them. And they became discouraged. It's kind of like the person that starts a diet and they go for a month and they're eating kale and they're eating almonds and then they step on the scales at the end of it and they're like, I gained 5 pounds. What happened here? I'm taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. Or it's like the person that finds a church that they like. And they come and they decide, you know what, I'm gonna join. I'm gonna be a part of the team. And they listen to what the preacher says every week and so intently, and they're trying to do everything that he's telling them to do, but they're wondering, why am I not feeling like I'm farther along than I am? Why am I not any better than I feel like I should be? Because I'm still struggling with feeling jealous, and I'm being critical, and I'm losing my temper, and even just trying to get the family in the car to go to church on Sunday to worship God, I'm cussing everybody out and screaming at them because they're making me late. Why am I feeling this way? We begin to wonder, is it worth it? Maybe you're in a relationship where you're trying to connect with the other person, but you feel like you're in it alone. Or perhaps you're a parent that's trying to help your kids to make wise choices, but they keep making decisions over and over again that disappoint you. And you become discouraged. And you want to give up. Can I be real with you for a minute? If I'm being completely real and honest with you, I live in a constant state of discouragement. After church today, when we wrap up and we leave, I will spend the rest of today playing this entire morning over and over again in my mind. I will relive this message about 1,500 times today, every word that I've said. I will think through everything that I said, everything that I did, everything that I didn't say that I wish I would have said, everything that could have been done different. I'll think about what I saw in the lobby this morning and hoping that you guys had a great experience coming in and getting to connect with others. I'll think about after service. I'll be worried about what happened next door and the kids, and did we take care of all the kids? Did we love the kids? Was everybody safe? Did anybody go to the hospital? Did we present the gospel message at a level that they can understand? I will dig through these things over and over and over again today. I love to celebrate wins. But if I'm being honest, I'm driven sometimes by a desire to fix my discouragement. I'm incredibly competitive, but I believe this statement would probably be true, that I hate losing even more than I love winning. Why would I share this with you today? Why would I let you know this? It's so you understand we're all on an equal playing field. And that we all experience setbacks and that we all deal with these feelings of discouragement. That we all compare ourselves and weigh ourselves and find ourselves coming up short and wanting. That when we look at our progress or lack of progress, and especially when we look at what we view as a lack of progress in our life versus progress that we may see in somebody else's life or somebody else's business or organization or somebody else's family, we're always going to end up discouraged. So what do we do with this? How do we move forward from discouragement? How do we take a step to get beyond it and to get past it? And I believe that in the book of Haggai here, I believe that God has shown me an answer for myself and an answer for you to share with you today. It's found in the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 4. And it says, "Be strong, all you people of the land, declares the Lord, and work. For I am with you, declares the Lord Almighty." Be strong, do the work. Be strong, do the work. That's 2 steps. I love that God understands that I'm pretty simple sometimes and I need things broken down a little bit. He says to be strong and to do the work. Last week he had 3 steps for the people. He told him, he said, I want you to go to the mountain, bring down the timber, and build my house. And it seemed at first like they could handle that, but 1 month in, where do we find them? They've already quit. They've already experienced a setback. They're already discouraged, and they're already giving up 1 month in. So now, instead of 3 steps, God's saying, well, you couldn't handle 3 steps, so I'm going to give you 2 steps. I'm going to break this down a little bit more easy for you. Be strong. Do the work. This was the direction that he gave for all of the people, not just a small group of the people. And I believe it's the direction that he's giving all of us today, to be strong and do the work. When you feel like giving up, be strong and do the work. When you're not seeing the results that you want to see, be strong and do the work. It doesn't say to talk the talk. It says to do the work. It doesn't say to dream the impossible dream. It says, be strong, do the work. And it definitely doesn't say to compare yourself with others. It says to be strong and do the work. There was a time where I was pretty discouraged and I was pretty upset and I was pretty down. And I remember in the middle of the afternoon one day, just being fed up and climbing into bed and pulling the covers up. And my wife, in the most tender, loving, compassionate way possible, rips the covers off and says, hey, you need to remember who you are. Get up. And what she basically said was, be strong and do the work. That's what God is calling us to be strong and to do the work. And we need to stay consistent in what God has called all of us to do. You know, there's an old story that we mostly just tell to kids. Maybe you've heard it before. It's a story called the tortoise and the hare. Maybe you're familiar. And I'm not going to tell you the whole thing, but the premise is you got a turtle and you got a rabbit, and they're supposed to race. Pretty easy to think the rabbit would win, right? Well, sorry, I'm gonna give you a shocker. Spoiler alert: the turtle wins. Why does the turtle win? Because the turtle fixes his eyes on the finish, and he stays consistent, and he continues to take step after step after step. Even though the rabbit was faster and should have won, the rabbit bounces all around. There's no consistency in the rabbit. Consistency wins the race. I want to give you this quote. It's that successful people do consistently what normal people do occasionally. Did you catch that? Successful people do consistently what normal people do occasionally. We can never underestimate the power of consistency. There's a restaurant here in town. I'm not going to give you the name of it, but my wife and I, we end up eating there about once a week. And you would think if we ate there once a week that we must love this place, right? That it just must have like the best food in town. It doesn't. But we go back there every week. And why do we do that? Because they're consistent. We know exactly what to expect there. We know that unlike some other places that we've been to in town, when they say they open at this time, that means they open at this time. And when they say they close at this time, they don't close their doors before that time. And we've always had a good customer service experience. And even though the food isn't the best I've ever had, it is consistently the same. And I know that when I order my peach tea, my cup is going to be full of ice before they put peach tea in it, and I need that. They're consistent. And because of their consistency and we know what to expect, we don't feel like we're taking a gamble and going to eat there. And so we find ourselves eating at this place every single week, at least once a week, just because we know what they're going to bring. And that's difficult. It's hard to be consistent. It's hard to be strong, and it's hard to do the work. But in Galatians 6:9, it says this: let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Do not grow weary in doing good. Don't grow weary in being consistent. Don't grow weary in being strong. Don't grow weary in doing the work. The key part of this verse is what it says: there will be a reward if you don't give up. You know, so many people get caught up in, I gotta battle my demons. I got to battle my demons. I got to fight the devil. No, you just have to not give up. Because the bottom line is Jesus already whipped that dude's little butt. It's over. It's finished. The victory has been won and it is ours. We just have to be strong, do the work, and not give up. We just have to be standing at the end of the day. We just have to not give up. Those are the 3 keys to success in life. Be strong, do the work, don't give up. Understand the battle is already yours. The victory is already yours. Somebody else already took care of it, already paid for it for you on your part. You don't have to do anything other than don't quit. Get up and face another day. Pick up another brick and continue to build that wall. Hammer in another beam. Continue to build that wall. Be strong. Do the work. Don't give up. This could be an okay place to end this message. We've had some practical application. Be strong, do the work, don't give up. There's the physical things that we could do. You could pick yourself up by your bootstraps and all that good stuff. But there's always a physical part, and there's always a spiritual part. And from this verse in Haggai, there's both aspects of it. And so I want to take just a couple more minutes. We've already tackled the physical part. I want us to look at the spiritual part here. If we look at Haggai chapter 2, verse 4, there's a piece in this verse that is game-changing that we blew by earlier. And we read, "Be strong, all you people of the land, declares the Lord, and work." Then he says, "For I am with you." Be strong and do the work, for I am with you. That is huge. That is game-changing. I am with you. And not just I am with you, but the I am is with you. Let's break this down a little bit. The God that created the entire universe, that spoke everything into being, into existence, that made you, that made me, that makes everything. The I am that Moses spoke of when he says to Pharaoh, "I am sent you." This guy, he says, "I am with you." So when we're thinking about this work and doing this work on our own, it's not on our own. It's not just up to us to be strong and do the work and don't quit. We are being strong in Him. We are doing the work in Him. We are not quitting in Him because I am is with you. There's one more passage in the book of Haggai I want us to look at. It's verse 9 of chapter 2 where it says, "The glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former house." Historians have a problem with this verse. They struggle with this verse. And people have picked this verse apart to kind of pick at the Bible. Because they're saying, well, how is this possible? Because it's common knowledge among historians that the temple that was torn down, Solomon's temple, was 1,000,000 times better than the temple that they end up building here called Zerubbabel's temple. And so how could God be saying that this new house is going to be greater than the old house, the former house? Because we know on paper it's not. There's not the gold, there's not the silver, there's not the jewels, there's not the diamonds, there's not all the amazing things that made Solomon's temple great. We don't have those in the new temple. But here's what I think is what's taking place here. I believe that in this verse, God is foreshadowing what's to come. You see, at this point in time in history, people had to go to the temple to make a sacrifice in hopes of connecting with God. But you see, what God was alluding to is that very soon God was going to come down and God was going to make a sacrifice so that God could connect to the people, so that God could connect with you. Because the truth of the matter is if you are a believer, you are the temple. And that Jesus Christ, when you put your faith and your hope and your trust and belief in Him, that He gives you His Spirit to live inside of you. So you have the Spirit of the living God inside of you. So when God says that this temple, the new temple, is going to be greater than the former temple, He's not talking about a physical structure, a physical being. He's talking about the Spirit of the living God of Jesus Christ living inside of you, and that you are the greater temple than Solomon's building in all of its splendor. And this is great news. This is great news because it's not you being strong and doing the work. It's Him in you and through you being strong and doing the work. And in the Bible it tells us that greater is He that is in us than he that is in the world. God has chosen us to partner with Him, and we work together with Him to build the house. I love the beauty of that we work together with Him. It's not that God is giving us a grocery list and saying, you go and do this. Here's your errands. You go and do this. You're my little errand boy. You're my little errand girl. Go do this and come back and report back to me. No, he is saying that he is partnering with us because I am with you. The Spirit is inside of us as a temple. So we are partnering with him doing this work. It's not just us being sent out to report back and tell God how he did, but he is partnering with us to do the work. And friends, I see story after story in people's lives where when they give their life to Christ and they come to a place where they surrender and they say, you know what, I want to partner with him. I'm not going to do this on my own, but I want to do life with you, God. I want you to fill me and I want us to partner together in this. Story after story of how he has accomplished incredible things. We see it in the life of our church every week. It's an incredible place to be because when we're discouraged, when we're tired, when we feel like something is impossible, when we feel like we can't go on any longer, it's him in us that is strong. It's him in us that helps us to do the work, to lay another brick, to take another step. It's him in us that helps us to go to the mountain, to bring down the timber, and to build his house. He's not just telling us to do something that he's not willing to do and that he's not going to partner with us in doing. We are in this together with him. That is the truth behind We Win Together. Yes, it's about us coming together, but We Win Together is about every single one of us coming together to partner with the great I Am, to partner with God. Because when that takes place, there is no way that we can't win, because we know it's recorded all throughout Scripture that no weapon formed against us will prosper. There's nothing that Satan or the gates of hell can throw at us that will have any effect on our lives whatsoever. Because when we partner together with him, when we let the I Am dwell in our lives and we work with him and we're strong with him and we're strong in him, that is when we win. Today I encourage you, if you don't have a relationship with God, if you've never come to a place where you've invited him into your life, I encourage you to do that today. And before you leave today, find myself, find somebody else that you've seen on stage today. Talk to one of our greeters in the lobby, one of the people with the name tag, somebody at the booth, and tell them that you want to make that decision today. That you want to come to a place where you invite God in, where you partner with him. Make that happen before you leave today. I encourage you today, wherever you're at in your life, whatever discouragement you faced or might be facing, in him, be strong. In him, do the work. In him, take another step. Lay another brick. And know that no matter what happens in this life, you are not alone. Because I Am is with you. Let's pray. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the sermon that you just watched. I'd like to personally invite you to come and worship with us at 10:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings at the River of Life Church. We have a great kids program. We have anchor groups that meet every week. We got a place for you to plug in and people to love you, a place for you to come as you are and to belong. We invite you to come and worship with us. We'll see you soon.